Welcome back to ChristianLivingRadio.com. We're here again with Joanne Pelcher, Unashamed by Grace, where today's topic is growing up digital. We're going to turn it over to Joanne on how to grow up in a digital age. Enjoy the word. God bless you.
Hi, Kenyatta and listening audience. Thank you so much for having me here today. So you're right. The topic of growing up digital, that is so true because, as you know, kids nowadays are growing up in a digital world. So young people that were born since the mid-90s, they've known nothing but internet, right? Computers, cell phones. And how different is that for us, right? We grew up in a different age where you didn't have the cell phones and things like that. So it's so funny because technology has become a big part of all of our kids' lives. And a recent study found that 70% of kids from age 2 to 5, they can operate a computer mouse, but only 11% of them can tie their shoes. So how crazy is that,
that's
right?
Crazy.
They're more proficient now on computers and working with the mouse and cell phones than they are just taking care of themselves.
Well, you'll see babies in car seats playing with an iPad or a telephone, doing games. I mean, they're not even walking and they know how to work these devices.
Right, just like my husband Brian was saying the last time we were here on the last episode, that a lot of times parents unknowingly give that phone or the computer to the child as a substitute babysitter when they're busy, which is fine. It can be used in the right way. But a lot of times, kids can accidentally, maybe one click away from stumbling upon something, or even, a child doing their homework, just one typo away from finding something inappropriate.
Yeah, that happened here at my house.
So yes, Kenyatta, you have a son, right? 13, Jalen.
Yes.
Right? Well, what happened?
He typed in something, looking for some tennis shoes, and it took him to a porn site.
Oh, my gosh.
And just, when you click on one thing, it adds like 10 or 15 pages. It just keeps going, right? So
yes.
He's, at one side, he's shocked and scared, and the other, he's inquisitive. And it was scary for me as a parent.
Oh, I can imagine. So, that's one thing we're going to talk about in a few minutes here too, is what you can do as a family to protect your children inside the home on the media devices. But we also have Jeremy with us today too.
Yeah, they drag me around for comic relief. That's how it is.
He's our sidekick here. He's our Ed McMahon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So, Jeremy, how many children do you have and what are their ages?
Well, we have 5, and Zoe's 9, Isaac's 7, Seth is 5, Victory's 3, and I've got a 4-month-old.
So you have some things to be concerned about as far as the kids getting into phones and computers, right?
Throughout the whole spectrum. I mean, all the way from school age all the way down to, I've got Victory that wants to play with our Kindle Fire all the time. Now, with all that said, everything has a different security level per what age that we have. My house, I've got my house set up so that the whole house has a security set up on it, so that way we can see if something comes on. If there is anything that's accessed per a certain word or a certain website or otherwise, it alerts me, it alerts my wife as soon as it's clicked on. That's part of our software we actually have on our server in the house, which most people don't have servers in their house, but I've got it set up on our main computer that actually monitors our router. So that way, all of our Wi-Fi, everything is set up to actually shove back to that computer, so it can actually see and alert us. And then we've got, with like our wireless devices, all of our wireless devices have their own, like each kid has their own, their own logins and stuff like that, and we help them log into theirs. So that way that's all. Yeah, see how it is.
Well, that's perfect.
Baby
and
daddy.
Baby
you know,
daddy.
I'm so proud to hear that somebody, you know, has taken the time to do all that to protect their children. And you know, what we want to talk about today is educating parents, because there's a lot of parents that aren't like you, Jeremy, and
Absolutely.
and a
Yes.
lot of it isn't willful. They're not doing it intentionally. It's just, some is just ignorance,
They don't
or they
know.
just don't understand what's out there. They don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I am not
I'm
computer. Yeah, I am not computer literate and at all. So to be able
Right.
to do that in my home, I wouldn't even have a clue. So that's so
Absolutely.
important. And Kenyatta, going back to what you said a few minutes ago about your son Jalen, you know how you said that it was an accident. He had found something. He was looking for tennis shoes and ended up finding something totally different. But that young kids, they're so easily exposed to that type of stuff nowadays. But it's like they don't know. A lot of them do stop looking at it. But you said sometimes it is that second glance because they may have never seen anything like that before. It's curiosity.
Right.
But a lot of children also don't stop looking because they're unaware how it's actually damaging their minds and their hearts. And so they don't realize, you know, like a lot of young kids will do things thinking, oh, I'm invincible. This isn't going to affect me.
Mm-hmm.
But with online pornography, the effects can be forever, and it affects their marriage. It's going to affect their children. And so it is so important as parents and grandparents that we educate our children on what they see. And there was another statistic too, where 60% of students that were surveyed by Covenant Eyes, they said the children actually admitted that they watch porn in order to learn more about sex and to fill in the gaps of their sex education. So that's another topic we can talk about at another
Amazing.
time. But as parents, I know it's really uncomfortable, but it's something we should start doing at a very early age. You used to be able to talk about it when children were older, but now they're seeing pornography. The statistics are as young as 11 is usually the first exposure to pornography. And this is this statistic that I'm going to say, it sounds unbelievable, but it's true. The largest consumer of internet porn are kids 12 to 17.
You're kidding me.
No, you would think it would, you know, adult
Oh my
males,
God.
34, which it is, but it's the kids because they're on their phones all the time. And they stumble upon it, just like you said. You know, your son, my son, had stumbled upon it. Actually, this lady that was a friend of mine, we were just talking yesterday, and she made a cake for a birthday party over the weekend. Mm-hmm. And she did what's called it's a naked cake, and where you barely put any frosting on it, so some of the cake can actually show through. But she said when she Googled, she purposely didn't put in the word naked because she was so afraid of what might come up. So that's someone who was purposely being careful. But do our kids do that? No.
Intentional.
You know, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They'll purposely put those words in just to see, out of curiosity, what comes up.
That's right.
The bad thing about it is even in our church, we actually have these issues in the children's dome a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the higher end, whenever you go on just before you get into junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're curious.
Yes. Yeah,
And
it's
that's not what God meant to be sex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what I had to share with Jalen. I'm like, you know, that's not what it's about, you know, and well, we can go into that later, but
yeah. Yeah, it's artificial, and it's just
I didn't know how to handle it.
yeah.
I had to call your husband. I did.
Well, you
I
know
called
what?
Brian right away because I'm like, they deal with this.
Like we had mentioned last time too, I've lost count of how many parents have called us and reached out to us by email or our Facebook page or whatever, just asking we need help. So what we want to do, our purpose now with you here today, is to help educate parents before it happens. We're certainly there for people after the fact, but our goal is now we want to educate. So before it were to happen, let's start, that protection and getting the filters out there right now in the home and on the computer and phone so that it doesn't become an accident, or they don't go to it out of curiosity.
Yes.
They'll come to us first.
That's good.
So, okay, well, one thing I also wanted to mention was, there is good news.
Oh, great. Because this is scary.
It
we
is.
love good news.
Well, we love our kids, right? More than we love almost every, except for God and our spouse. So
Yeah.
we want to do everything we can to protect them. And Like I said earlier, sometimes just out of not knowing what to do or not knowing what's out there, we unintentionally, have allowed them to see things that, by giving them our phone just to play with while we're at the store. But the good news is they can be educated early enough so they can start recognizing and rejecting things that they see. And also, so we've opened up those lines of communications so now they can come to us and talk to us if they see something. And so that's where we come in, Unashamed by Grace. We can help. And so we're actively involved in educating the public through our social media outlet, which is our Facebook page, which is Unashamed by Grace, and also our website of the same name. And Brian and I were both ambassadors for Covenant Eyes. That's just one of the many filters that are out there. It just happens to be one that Josh McDowell, if you've ever heard of him, he's been a pastor for many, many years, well known. He's actually partnered with them. So because of that and his stamp of endorsement on Covenant Eyes, we've become ambassadors with them. So it's an accountability software, and it actually monitors and reports internet usage, kind of like Jeremy was saying, in his home with his router that he has set up. So the parent and or spouse, so it's not just for kids, the parent or spouse decides who the reports are sent to. So parents can use these reports to have conversations about what the children may have previously seen or some of the online temptations that they might see in the future. So it provides that freedom by removing the secrecy of the online temptations. And like I said, it's not just for the kids. So it's something maybe the spouses, like I actually have it on my phone. It's something the spouses can even put. And then I therefore make my spouse the person that gets the reports and vice versa. So
accountability.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, you brought up something. Another point I was going to mention later is that having accountability software, it actually upholds the family values and encourages other people in the home or the office to do the same thing. So it's something, if you have a small office, you can even put it on office computers. You definitely want to let your employees know you have it, but you don't want any surprises. But, it's something you can even put because there are many, many cases where there's people looking at pornography in the office. I've heard of that. When I worked in the corporate world, that happened as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things like that. And it's ridiculous at times, but it's so prevalent. It's so easy to access. And then people get sucked in. It's like a magnet, before they know it. And I've watched grown men break down and cry because I can't stop. I don't know what to do. And I'm just thankful for Unashamed by Grace because it's blessing families. It's turning things around.
Yeah, well, we do want to get the word out there, and we want it to be something like we have told you before that can be talked about. And that's another reason why it's become so prevalent as far as an addiction is because when you don't talk about things, you don't have anyone to talk to them about.
Right. So
it just grows. It's like a cancer. It just grows and grows and grows because there's no doctor to help. So by having us, we want to be able to say, hey, it's all right to talk about these kind of things. So once you open the lines of communication with each other and in your home, then now that doctor can come in and start, addressing that epidemic and or preventing the spread of it.
Right. Sometimes we got to dig down real deep and restructure and then lay a new foundation so we can come back up.
Yes, that's
and I think that's what Unashamed by Grace does for everybody.
Thank you so much. So, Jeremy, I'm going to talk a little bit about there's a form that the families can actually download. I'll tell them here in a minute, but just tell me really briefly, all these filters that you had put on your router, was that something you just did because you knew how to do it, or did you actually go to a website with like YouTube and instructions on how to do it?
Well, I've been in media for a while, so a lot of those, we actually started doing that in the assemblies of God for the church-wide servers, just to keep pastors accountable and things like that. And not only just pastors, but anybody that was on a PC off of the router, we wanted to make sure that they were held accountable and it was shut off right away. And a lot of the servers back in 2002, 2003, we were already doing that in at least Indiana anyway.